Perfection is a moving target, and it's a standard that constantly changes based on how you're feeling, so your mood, your environment, and who you're comparing yourself to. And that's why it's so dangerous, because it convinces you that you are never enough unless you've done everything right, completely flawlessly, and without any sort of setback at all. And that's just not how life works. It's just not. Growth is messy, it's non-linear. Sometimes, especially in the beginning, like you may not even notice that you're growing. It's only really when we're able to look back and see, oh, this is the growth I've made in this area. This is the growth I've made in this area. And it's actually so rewarding, and it's really cool to see the growth that you've made looking back. Maybe you're in a conversation with someone, or you're dealing with something happens in your life, and you have to approach the situation in a specific way. Maybe your thinking is different than the way it used to be, or your overall mindset is different than the way it used to be, or the way that you respond, the way that you speak is different than the way you used to, respond or speak. And you're able to look back and see, wow, I've actually made progress in that area. I've grown. And that's really rewarding. Perfection sells us a lie that once we get there, once we reach this destination or accumulate this thing or get this achievement, that's when we'll feel whole, that's when we'll feel confident, that's when we'll be fulfilled and satisfied. But that destination keeps moving. It always will keep moving. Once you reach a milestone, or once you hit the objective, suddenly there's a new one. Suddenly a new one appears, especially if you're an ambitious person. And you meet a standard, and the goalpost is continuously moving forward. It's always going to continue to shift. And that creates a loop of never arriving at the destination that you ultimately want, never getting the feeling that you want, never feeling fully satisfied or fully fulfilled. And what's worse is that perfection can paralyze progress. You start avoiding even starting something because you feel like it won't be perfect. You delay, posting that video, or just going to your first gym session, or putting on your running shoes and taking that first step. You delay taking action because it might not be polished enough. Or you downplay the progress that you have made because it didn't necessarily look like a success. And in doing so, you miss the most important part. You're actually growing, even if it's quiet. And I'm going to repeat that because it's so, so important. You're growing even if it's quiet. If you're winning in any capacity, it's still a W. It's still a win. Even if it's slow, even if it's small, even if no one else sees it. So it's about learning to make progress the goal, not perfection. When you shift your focus to progress, you stop chasing a finish line that doesn't really exist. And you start honoring and respecting the journey that you're on, every day, the journey that you're on toward getting you to your goals. And when you start making progress the goal, which I believe I think I titled a previous recording, Making Progress the Goal. But when you're honoring and respecting the journey that you're on, you begin to notice the habits you're building along the way. You begin to notice the subtle mindset shifts that you're making, growth in the way that you are thinking. Maybe before you thought negatively, and now you're slowly becoming someone who's thinking positively on a day-to-day basis. You start noticing the effort that you've been putting in, even on days where it's hard to show up. And you start recognizing the balance you're slowly creating in all different areas of your life. Such subtle things that make the biggest difference. And you start to realize that getting 1% better in multiple areas, your career, your relationships, your mindset, your health, adds up to a version of you that's more grounded, that's more present. And when you become a better version of yourself in small ways every single day, you're going to be more confident in yourself, and you're going to be more capable of actually reaching your goals and holding on to your goals and growing with your goals. Do you know how much further ahead you get than so many people? Not to compare yourself to anyone, but I just want to make this comment. Like, you are so far ahead of everyone else when you don't stall, when you don't hesitate. Because people get caught up in this perfection mindset and they hesitate, they stall, they don't start doing the things that they want to do because you're waiting until you're ready. You're waiting until the conditions are perfect. You're waiting until everything is in place. And in doing so, you rob yourself of that growth, because growth doesn't happen in flawlessness, in polished conditions. Growth happens in the shit, in the mess, in the middle, in the uncomfortable, in the uncertainty, in the imperfect action. If you just stepped outside of your comfort zone in any capacity and took action, even when the conditions were imperfect, do you know how much further ahead you get from everyone else? Because you're actually doing the thing. You're in the arena, which is such an incredible feeling. Like, it may be scary at first, but if you continue to show up, you continue to give yourself that internal approval, like I mentioned in my last recording, you're going to be way more confident and you're going to be more aware and realize, I can actually do this. Like, I can do this. It doesn't need to be perfect. Making progress the goal, like I said, even if it's just 1% better a day, is how real change happens. And the reason why this is the case is because it's sustainable. It builds momentum. It keeps you connected to the process, your purpose, not just some imaginary outcome or destination. 1% better a day may feel small, but it compounds, and you have to remind yourself of that. Over time, it becomes, you having stronger habits, you having a more resilient mindset, you feeling more at peace with yourself, a deeper sense of trust in yourself. All of these things come when you make your focus, when you make the goal progress. And I feel like, this is really common and it's very unfortunate, but you're probably already growing. You're probably already showing up for yourself. You're probably already doing the work in some capacity, but because it may not look perfect, or because you have this grand ideal vision in your mind, you don't even recognize it as progress, right? Like, you may dismiss the early mornings and the uncomfortable conversations, or the healthier choices that you're making, or the boundaries that you're setting, or the boundaries you're learning to set, all because it may not look impressive enough for you. Like, that's the silent damage of perfectionism. Perfection sets the bar too high, too narrow, and anything less than the ideal feels like a failure when you're focused on perfection and not, just the small progress that you're making. And if you can't recognize your own progress, you're constantly going to feel behind. And you'll constantly chase the next fix, the next goal, racing after some finish line that keeps on moving, chasing the next version of yourself, hoping that one day you'll finally feel good enough. But that day won't come because you're not lacking progress. You're lacking perspective. You're lacking understanding. You're lacking awareness that you actually are making progress. Did you show up on a day you wanted to quit? If the answer is yes, that's progress. Did you pause before acting out of emotion? Did you take the time to respond rather than react? That's progress. Did you try again after failing? That's progress. Did you keep the promise you made to yourself when normally you don't? That's progress. Stop waiting for your results to look, like the perfect highlight reel. Start honoring the small, imperfect action that you're taking, the consistent actions that are reshaping you and helping you, mold yourself into a better version of yourself. Start honoring the unglamorous actions. That's where real confidence is built. You don't need to be perfect to be proud of yourself. You don't need to wait and wait and wait and wait for the perfect conditions in order to start. And last but not least, you don't need to accumulate more things in order to take a second, pause, be present, look back and see how far you've come. That's a big one, right? A lot of people just don't appreciate the progress that they've made because they have this grand vision and they think that everything needs to be perfect and they need to get there in order to recognize, how far they've already come. So perfection is dumb. Like, it's an illusion. When you start making progress the goal, that's when I feel like, everything changes. You start developing a new perspective on things, and you're just more fulfilled and happier, I feel like. It's something that I've had to remind myself of too. So hope you got some value from listening to this recording. I think that's all I wanted to talk about. If you have any comments or questions, you can always hit me up on Instagram at Presence of Being, or just message me on TikTok at samwisebrad_. You can go to presenceofbeing.co and grab a hat and support what we're building here. If you have any recommendations for the kind of things that you want me to talk about in these recordings, also let me know. I'm open to all feedback. If you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube where this is also being uploaded, doing that would mean a lot. Leaving a thumbs up, commenting definitely helps. And yeah, that's it. So I hope you're having a great day wherever you're listening to this, and I will see you in the next recording very soon.